Today, badass author Stephen King's very unpopular advice about writing and marketing. MichaelMcLean.coach. I am a ex-professional and amateur hockey coach, team owner, and if you would like to receive these daily broken iPhone videos in your righteous email box every day at 6 a.m. I don't take any days off. Go to michaelmclean.coach, put in your name and email. There's nothing to buy. These daily videos are free. There's no charge. michaelmclean.coach. So I was reading an interesting article yesterday. I love studying horror author Stephen King. I think he's one of the most brilliant writers of all time. And not only do I enjoy his work, reading his books, those tombs that he creates, I mean, but he's got an incredible story. You know, beating alcoholism, starting his writing career living in a trailer park, almost not starting his writing career. If it wasn't for his wife's belief in him, we wouldn't even know Stephen King's name. But he talked in this article 2 insider secrets that I think are absolutely critical for any small business owner, any entrepreneur, any copywriter, any company founder like you and me. For us, writing is marketing. I'm talking about 2 secrets that Stephen King, he's talking about writing novels. He's talking about writing chapters in books. But this is something you gotta get in your mind. As a small business owner, you are now a writer. Now, you don't have to be the next J.K. Rowling. You don't have to be the next John Grisham. You don't have to be Ernest Hemingway. But you have to be a decent writer, because writing is marketing. Copywriting is marketing. If you're gonna create, if you're gonna write blogs, if you're gonna shoot videos, if you're gonna publish a client newsletter, if you're gonna make posts on anti-social media, whatever you're gonna do to promote your business, advertising, marketing, promotion, it's all comes down to writing. So the better the writer that you and I can become, the better communicator you'll be, the more influence you'll have, and the more persuasion. In other words, you're gonna be able to make more money with less effort. I don't care if you're writing emails, I don't care if you're writing blog posts or writing articles to publish online or offline. As an entrepreneur and small business owner, we need to be capable writers. So here's 2 insider secrets that really hammered home with me yesterday reading about Stephen King again. His top 2 secrets that he says for any writer, you, me, a copywriter, a marketer, a small business owner. Number 1, you've got to be a voracious reader. That's a writer downer. That's a writer downer. And that's one of the things that stops so many small business owners. I call it the library in your head. I was having lunch the other day down on the beach in Naples with badass millionaire brother, Willie Miranda. And Willie turned to me during our 2-hour lunch and he goes, Coach, he says, how do you come up with so many ideas for your emails, your videos, and your newsletters? Like, how do you come up with so many ideas day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year? And I turned to Willie and I said, it's called the library in my head. I can't even remember who coined that first term. But when somebody coined that term, they said to me, Michael, your inputs will equal your outputs. And this was a person who said they don't believe in writer's block. They said writer's block is bullshit. And at the time, I was struggling to write emails every day. I was struggling to publish a newsletter. I was struggling to write telegrams. Like I would sit down with a blank screen or a blank piece of paper, and I'm like, what am I going to write about? And that's when this person says, it's all about the library in your head. The more you read, the better writer you're going to be. And in fact, what Stephen King says, if you are not a voracious reader, if you're not reading every single day, whether it's 20 minutes, whether it's 30 minutes, whether it's an hour, whether you're reading like a Warren Buffett 3 to 5 hours a day, if you're not a serious student, reading real books, real magazines, it doesn't matter if it's fiction or nonfiction, it doesn't matter if it's good writing or poor writing, even King says. He says the most important thing is that we're reading all the time. And then he says with those inputs, no matter what you're reading, then it will result in the outputs. You're never going to be, looking for ideas. You're never going to suffer from writer's block because you're reading so much. You're putting so much into your brain, the library in your head, that when you sit down in front of a blank screen, it'll just come pouring out. He used the word percolating, like a coffee machine, like a percolating. Your ideas will just come out of you. It'll almost be like a personal therapy, a rant or sharing stories or whatever it is. So that was number one with King. He said, listen, he said, you have got to be a voracious reader. And you gotta do it every day. You gotta read 7 days a week, not 5 days and then 2 days off. He believes in the same concept that I do, and I learned from the great Grant Cardone. Weekends make us weak. Ever since we were young children, we have been indoctrinated into and conditioned into a stop and start society, right? 5 days, stop. 2-day weekend, then start again, 5 days. And the thing about it is, and my father always says this, he said, son, 100% is easy, 99% is hard. And I never truly understand what he meant until I started writing. And I would write, for an hour one day, take 2 days off, then cram and write for 45 minutes another day, miss 3 days. And it was the same with walking. It was the same with going to the gym. Stop and start is so difficult. And that's what my dad meant. 99% is brutally hard. If you're not all the way in, if you don't do it every day, at least for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, he said the stop and start will kill you, because momentum is underrated. Momentum is underrated. It's like any school teacher worth their salt will tell you that the most challenging day is when the students return after a 2 or 3 day weekend. It's like you're starting over again. Or after summer vacation, a good professor or teacher will say, it's like we're almost starting over again. And that's because of that stop and start mentality. So King talks a lot about this, where he writes and he reads 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, 365 days, no days off. And this may or may not work for you, but I've tried it both ways. And I'm going to tell you right now that writing for 5 minutes a day, or 10 minutes a day, or 20 minutes a day, or even an hour per day is so much simpler, so much easier than the stop and start. Even the Monday to Friday is just a killer, because then you take off Saturday, you take off Sunday, and you sit down on a Monday and you try to write an email, or you try to write an article, or you try to post something, and you're like, man, I don't have any momentum. The reason we don't have any momentum is because weekends make us weak. Stopping and starting is so difficult. So keep that quote in your head when it comes to the important things in your life, whether it's walking, whether it's drinking water, whether it's reading every day or writing every day. If it's important, do it every day. And if you only have 5 minutes, you only have 5 minutes. If you only have 10 minutes, you have 10 minutes. But just doing that precious 5 or 10 or 20 minutes every day will give you badass, unstoppable momentum. I learned as a pro hockey coach and amateur hockey coach, there is nothing more powerful than momentum. When you have momentum, you want to keep it. The way to keep it is to do it every day. On a day you don't feel like going for a walk, damn it, put on your shoes and walk for 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, if you don't want to walk anymore, then don't walk anymore. But don't take the whole day off. Don't give yourself that mental defeat of not showing up. 5 minutes will work, and then the next day when you feel better, you can go for a 10 or 20 minutes. The same with reading. Is you've got to set a goal. If you're not used to reading, your brain has been, microwaved over the last 20 years with the World Wide Web, with anti-social media, with smartphones. So don't be surprised if you can't read for very long. In other words, you're a cell phone junkie and you're in a situation where you're constantly addicted to quick dopamine fixes, right? Check your email, check your phone, check social, check sports, check whatever, check your investments. And those are just bing, 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 little shots of dopamine. You got to learn to turn that stuff off. And I get my shots of adrenaline, of feel good from, reading and writing. So Stephen King says it doesn't matter how much you read, and it doesn't matter what you read. And Dan, the great Dan Lazonis, my daughter's homeschooling coach, he said that to me a couple years ago. He said, listen, when it comes to your children, he says, I don't care what they read. You've just got to turn them into voracious readers. If she wants to read Harry Potter, she reads Harry Potter. If she wants to read Archie comics, let her read Archie comics. If she wants to read a magazine on wildlife, whatever it is, but it does not matter what we read in the beginning. He said, you can read books that are poorly written. Doesn't make any difference. We have to read every single day. So that's number one. Stephen King reads every single day, and we need to do the exact same thing. The library, build the library in your head. And when you do that, don't be surprised when all of a sudden you have all kinds of ideas and you never have to deal with writer's block again. So that's number one. Be a voracious reader. I don't care if it's 5 minutes or if it's 5 hours, but do it every day. 99% of the time is hard. 100% of the time is simple and easy. Secondly, Stephen King talks about there's no way around it. Just like reading, you've got to write every day. And once again, if you have no writing experience like I used to, I never had written a grocery list, but I got started, and he has some great advice. Let's say you're a brand new newbie and you want to start writing, okay? Whether it's a book, whether it's a ebook, whether it's daily emails, whether it's a blog post. This is what Stephen says to build the muscle. Reading is a muscle and writing is a muscle. And these are the two things he said that you got to do every single day of the year. So let's say you haven't had any experience sitting down and writing. What he recommended, he says, is to start doing this twice a day. It takes you 5 minutes. He said, instead of sitting down at a blank screen and trying to write a book or write a chapter or write a post on social media or try and write a script or any of that stuff, he says, start by building your writing muscle by, in the first thing, last thing at night, write down what happened in your day. Like, keep it really brief, 2 to 3 minutes. I did this, I walked, I did some work, I returned some phone calls, I went for a walk with my wife, I picked up my daughter at school, we had family dinner, I went to the gym for 20 minutes, boom, done. Physically cursive writing in a journal by your bed. He says this will start to get your writing muscle going. long before you sit down at a computer or a screen. And then he says the second thing to do, twice per day, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever it is, he says in the morning when you're getting started, when you're enjoying your coffee in the kitchen or wherever, take 2 or 3 minutes and write what you're going to do that day. And I mean, this is like, once again, 5 minutes a day, what you did and what you're going to do. And cursive writing, he says, will compound it into your brain. All of a sudden, over some days, over some weeks, over some months, he says, once you do this for 30 days, he says, you will be amazed at how clear your thinking becomes. Remember, you're repairing your damaged prefrontal cortex. You're used to dopamine fix. You're used to quick shots of adrenaline. You've got to retrain your brain by reading real books, real newsletters, real magazines, real paper and ink, and you've got to start writing every single day. He said after you do that for 30 days, writing what you did and what you're going to do, he says then it's time to start every day sitting down at a computer in a good environment and writing for 5 minutes, writing for 10 minutes. And once again, my dad's advice for high performance applies. 99% of the time is hard. It's difficult. 100% of the time is simple and easy. Well, I don't know about you, but I want simple and easy. So I'm going to write for 5 minutes every single day, 7 days a week. And that's what King does. Do you know even a great writer like him, his goal when he's writing a book, he writes every day of the year, his goal is 10 pages a day. This is a guy that makes tens of millions of dollars a year. He's one of the most famous writers of our time, and he writes 10 pages a day. Now that may seem like a lot or it may seem like a little, but for me, I'm like, wow, here's a guy that is one of the top writers in history. And really, he's only investing probably an hour to 3 hours per day. And he says he writes the book in one season. In one season, there's 4 seasons. He doesn't, you know, his books are like this, right? Like they're 4 fingers thick. So here's a guy who writes a book in a season. And you know how he does it? He does it one day at a time, that compounding effect. So people would think that he sits down, he writes for 8 hours or 10 hours and goes in a cabin in the woods, and all of it's just horseshit. He doesn't. He reads and he writes every day. He reads and he writes every day. Now, when he wants to write a book, he gives himself a season, which is 3 months. Same as spring, summer, winter, and fall. He gives himself 3 months to write it. But here's the thing. He says, okay, I'm going to write 10 pages a day, every day. So that's 70 pages a week. And then 70 pages times 30 days times 3 months. He's like, wow, he's like, I got a massive book on my hands. And that's all he does. He reads, he writes those incredible books in one season. And it's all 10 pages at a time, 10 pages at a time, 10 pages at a time. And like Grant Cardone, no days off, no Saturday, no Sunday. And, you know, you have the gurus out here who always get a kick out of life balance and all this stuff and lifestyle business. Well, I'm going to tell you something. If you do the important things 5 or 10 minutes a day, you've got like 20 hours the rest of the day to do your thing, to get the amount of rest you need, to get to the gym, to do your important stuff. But a guy like King, 10 pages a day, a guy like that, I'm certain hammers that out in an hour, maybe 2. And I think that it's probably faster than that. But that's his advice right there. It's you got to be a voracious reader, like the great Charlie Munger said. You've got to be a learning machine. A learning machine, and read whatever the hell you want, long as you're reading every day. And secondly, you've got to write every day. You can't be a tennis player and not play every day. You can't be you can't be a football player and not train every day. You can't be any of these things unless you do it every day, at least for 5 minutes. Well, writing's no different. You got to build the library in your head, and secondly, you got to write. And like King said, he said, if you're not willing to read every day, if you're not willing to write every day for at least 5 minutes, he goes, don't even start. Don't even start. If you're going to give up after 2 days, or you're going to give up after 2 weeks, or the book is never going to get written, or the newsletter's never going to get published, or the email's never going to get sent, he's like, don't even start. Don't even start. If you can't commit to 5 minutes a day, whether it's reading and writing, or 10 minutes a day reading or writing, he goes, you're just not a serious person. So that's the third thing that he said. He said, it's burn the boats or it's not. It's take the island or it's not. It's all in all the way. But starting with 5 minutes a day, man, that's so doable. That's so doable until you train your brain, you repair the damage you've done to your mind with screening the last 20 years, and you go from there. Now, Stephen King has 5 things in this article. I'm doing a deep dive on them in this month's Michael McLean letter. So my world building letter, if you're new around here, I publish a paper and ink physical print newsletter that I mail to your mailbox once a month. It's my most popular product. And if you would like to subscribe to my Michael McLean newsletter, I'm going to break down all of Stephen King's 5 big secrets for writing and marketing this month. I'm fascinated by writers like that guy. And the link is below, badassletter.com, and it's only $97 per month. That's $3.45 a day. So that's less than a cup of coffee that I bought this morning at Dunkin's. $3.45 a day for me to write a 22 page marketing, money making, and world building newsletter, and for me to ship it to your door once a month. $97 a month. And this month I'm going to throw in one of these black badass t-shirts. It says "Be Relentless" on the back. So that cover, they're worth $70 to begin with. The link is below, badassletter.com, and you still have time to sign up. You still have time to have that shipped to your home with the t-shirt for $97 a month, $3.45 a day, and you can study these other 3 secrets that Stephen King is talking about. Oh my God, can you imagine if you gradually and slowly over time become an outstanding writer, where you can just sit down and write an email in 5 minutes, or a post, or write a blog in 15 minutes that brings you mucho fungolas, like the late great Gary Halbert said, money into your pocket. It's a weapon you can take anywhere with you. What Stephen King is talking about is a weapon, a skill. The government can't take it away from you. The economy can't take it away from you. It's something that you have the ability to sit down and write for money, is something that they can never, ever take away from you. And it's something, if you're like me, that I'm fascinated with getting better and better at every day. The link is below. I'll ship a t-shirt with your copy of it, and you can learn from the great horror host, the great Stephen King. That's it for today. 2 words that have changed my life, 2 words that can change yours. Be relentless.